Hello, welcome to episode 9. Have you eaten today? Because we all know I have. In fact, I just ate. I have to eat like all the time or else I pass out, but I can't eat in large frequencies. I gotta break it up. Here's the thing with me, I'm a real slow eater. The amount of time it'll take me to eat lunch will bleed into dinner, which is the issue, because then most of my waking hours are spent eating. But I'm just pecking. I'm not really, I don't know how many calories I'm taking down per day, but I do know that it's gonna take me about quadruple, maybe five-tuple the time of the average human. As a kid, I would get up and walk around while I was eating dinner. Like everyone else in my house would be finished, and I'd be up and out and about. I'd be wandering around the house because we all know that I'm not finishing. Everyone always thinks I'm done eating because I got the hiccups. Do I just fight through the hiccups, or do I stop and wait for the hiccups to pass? Because we know this is going to be about a 5-minute endeavor. You forget about the negative impact of hiccups on your life until they happen to you. And then you'll do anything to get rid of them. I think other people are fast eaters. I think that I would thrive in Europe, as I do eat very slowly. Also, I speak fluent French. I think I would thrive in Europe. I would thrive in the sense that they like to sit in front of coffee shops with their food, I think. Or no, their meals take a while. I think that's one of their things, is they take forever to eat. And I resonate with that, so I think we should, rather than moving to Europe, that feels like a logistical nightmare. I think that the sort of in a round robin style, the countries should just swap in the sense that like a European country's government just comes over here to America, and then America would move to Europe in regards to infrastructure and all that, but like we get to stay here. Everything else around us moves. We do not have to move. I think that's the best way to move. So example, if you tell someone that you're moving soon, that means that everyone else around you is moving and all of your settings are changing, but you get to keep your house and your apartment. That way it's just easier. I've never had to move in that sense. I had my childhood home all the way through childhood, and my parents still have it, which is pretty great because I can't imagine going home and not having your childhood home. That's gotta be such a bummer. Because you still go in. You still go into your house when you get. If you're going home, you're still gonna go to your house regardless of who owns it and walk in and say, yeah, this is my room, and I don't like what you did with it. I don't like that this is now a workout space, and you switch it up because you own the rights to that room initially, and no one can. Those are unalienable rights. When law started, did they used to, like, were lawyers necessary, or like could you just was it intended that you represent yourself and then someone hired someone that was an expert in law, and that sort of set a precedent that you get a lawyer for when you're in a legal proceeding? Because I think lawsuits and that sort of thing would be so much more interesting if it was just the individuals representing themselves. I think lawyers should not be allowed to exist for certain lawsuits and that sort of thing, because then it's pay to watch TV. If, for example, in divorce court, if they have to represent themselves, then it's gonna get heated, and there's gonna be screaming, and it's gonna be entertaining for the people that are watching, the people in the jury. I guess there's probably not a jury for divorce. I also feel like, I guess divorce is probably settled privately. That's not really in a courtroom. But I would like to make it in a courtroom. I'd like to make that a public, viewable event. You hear that your neighbors are getting divorced, you go, oh, I'll watch that. Yeah, buy me 2 tickets to that, I'm there. Tailgating outside of the court before the divorce. Vertical pockets versus horizontal pockets. Horizontal pockets are much better in my opinion, because this is not natural. I look like I'm cold. But if I had like pockets that are more like that more so go at a diagonal rather than straight down, because straight down no one does that. No one's using that in that capacity. It's strictly for storing things rather than for being cool. But if I had more diagonal pockets, then that would be cooler. I'd be able to hang out more. I'd be able to lean up against stuff more. A little bit more of that. How often do you have to wash pants? I heard something that you only have to wash jeans like once a month, once a year even, which I know you can do that, but I feel like that's just disgusting. I think you wash pants once every 2 weeks. You wash shirts pretty much everywhere because you're sweating through those things. I don't sweat too much. I know people who sweat just bucket loads. And like in high school, coaches would be like, like, I want to see everybody here sweating. Well, some of us actually have different susceptibilities to sweat. So what you should be doing is hook us up to those heart monitors, have us all be running with heart monitors and say, I'd like to have you all get to a certain BPM. Is BPM, that's a music thing, right? I guess that's probably, Is that for heart rate as well? That's cool. That's something that doctors and music producers have in common. They have a lot more in common than you would think. Some of my best friends are doctors and music producers, and they make some weird music. When there are places that say, like, they'll tow your car if you park here because this is parking specifically for an establishment or something like that, how do they check? How are they checking that? Because there's a CVS in Hollywood that I was going to park at the other day because I didn't want to street park and gamble. And it said, this parking is specifically for the CVS, you'll be towed. But are they checking every single person in the CVS? Do they got someone at the door going, oh, what's your license plate? Because I could park there for days on end. I feel like that wouldn't raise any flags. I don't know what I would have to do to get my car towed at CVS. But I also don't want to be the one guy that got his car towed at CVS. You don't want to be that guy at the party. There's always that one guy at the party who got his car towed at CVS. One day my fake plants are going to look like that because they're going to grow. I've been watering these every day. Nothing's happening. In college, you have to make a thesis, which is usually like the culmination of your time in college. You have to make a project using what you've learned in college to make a statement about something. I think it'd be interesting to make your college thesis just disproving someone else's college thesis. Because first of all, if you pass, they fail. Higher stakes for both of you. Second of all, if you are correct, if your thesis is proved correct, then you are smarter than them and more valuable. And then if you apply to the same job, they go, oh, you got a pretty good GPA, good involvement, and then what's this thesis here? If you're the two candidates going against each other, yours is the one that beat theirs out. So I think maybe I'll go back to college and just disprove other people's theses and just sort of ruin lives. Just sort of ruin lives and careers. You spent 2 semesters gathering the evidence to prove this correct. Well, it sounds like you're gonna have to spend another 2 semesters finding a new one. And then what they can do is if they really want to pass college, is they can buy me off. I will not publish my thesis. If they pay me a mere $200,000, I will not publish my thesis and allow them to graduate. And I will continue this process every single year, and I will do this at all the rich, wealthy colleges. Asking a new friend to hang out for the first time is very awkward, very uncomfortable, especially if it's one-on-one, because it feels like a date. And I try not to make it a date, but when I just can't help but showing up in my nicest dress, and I feel like that just sets the tone. It's just awkward because it's a very vulnerable thing to do. Just be like, hey, do you want to hang out? Like, and they're like, oh, like to a party? I was like, maybe just me and you. Maybe just like me and you hang out. And you're really putting yourself out there because you're assuming that they like you. I kind of go into everything assuming that people don't like me, and then they have to explicitly say it for me to feel like they do like me. Or at least, like, I think everyone likes me to do like a baseline degree, but I assume they don't like me enough to hang out unless they have asked me to hang out. So it's very difficult for me to make the first move. So what I'm gonna start doing is doing promposals for friends. Will you be my friend at lunch? That'll be with the signs. That's a horrible promposal. Last episode I asked for some questions, and guess what? You guys asked some questions. So somebody was listening, and that somebody was a lot of you. And now I'm going to go through and answer some of those questions. At J_X4Q1107, that's a beautiful name. Is that a family name? Asks, I would like to know the Ryan Micho of Ryan Micho with Ryan Micho's. That's good. I like that name. I'm going to put up a poll. I don't think you can do polls on YouTube. A mental poll. How many more Ryan Micho should I add to the title? My opinion on the status of the wood import industry at the present moment, if chance may have it. Well, I don't have much of a pulse on the current state of the wood import market, but I did work at a hardware store while I was a sophomore in college, and let me tell you, when there was a wood shortage at the time, and people were freaking out, the contractors would come in 5 in the morning to come get their wood, clear out that wood section. There was very little wood left. I imagine it was a tough time to be a whittler. They take their wood seriously, and they want to know. They all want to know when the shipment's coming in. And we would just be like, I don't know, probably soon. Working at a hardware store and not knowing anything about hardware, the only people that worked there were 20-year-olds and 80-year-olds, and I'm not exaggerating when that was the 2 demographics. So it was like 80-year-olds who probably built their house and their car from scratch, versus me, who I gotta text my mom every time I want to microwave something. I say, how long do I microwave this for? So people would ask where stuff is. That one I could do. I would just look that up. But, any sort of advice, got nothing. And I think people sort of sniffed that out. No one was approaching me for advice. But when you are in the wood section, for example, and you're wearing the costume, of the employee. People assume that you know a little something or two. I never got a chance to operate the saw, unfortunately. That was probably for good measure. I cut myself. I dropped wood on my arm, got a scar. Didn't ask for workers' comp. That was a big mistake on my end. I would fill orders, like online orders. It was fantastic. It was in this massive, like a warehouse of the store. And I would just go around and it was like a treasure hunt. Every day was like a treasure hunt. And I would fill the orders. And then I would also go out and get the shopping carts in the parking lot sometimes. Final answer on the status of the wood import industry. I hope it's flourishing. If not, what are some alternatives we could use instead of wood? We could use gum. What are some alternatives that we could use? Legos. If we just make Legos bigger. That's the thing, is they're too small right now to actually be used for construction purposes. But if we were to make the Legos bigger, then they would be big enough to be used. Legos are not made of wood, which is nice. Lincoln Logs, however, are made of wood. So I would not use Lincoln Logs. If there was a wood shortage, I would use Legos. At Taylor Wayne-SP4UZ asks, what best day to have your birthday? I'll tell you what. So my birthday is February 19th, which is, you go, oh, that's nothing. That's, that's not a big deal, not a big birthday. Except that it is, because, know why? Because it's right near President's Day. So I would have school off from it every year. Underrated birthday location, mid-February, right in that range. No major holidays around it either. You don't want one in December, obviously. That's a danger zone, because you got Christmas coming up. So even if you're beginning of December, the spending budget's lower. The gifts you're getting, those are B tier, because they're saving for Christmas, which is justifiable. You don't want to waste your best gift on a birthday. You want to waste it on Christmas, because that's Christmas, as we know, is at its root about giving the most expensive gift you can. Summer birthday, I feel like birthdays peak in elementary to high school. Maybe, I would say more so elementary school though, because that's like when you're having a birthday party. And having a summer birthday is terrible because no one knows about it at school. There's like a million summer birthdays, so they'll do something to acknowledge it. Like in my school, they would announce like all of the summer birthdays before the summer started, but no one cares. No one's listening because there's 45 million birthdays. You're tuning out. Probably thinking about your favorite color because you're like 7. Whereas for February, sure, I had off school, so people weren't really paying attention, but it was right before a break, so there was no school. Same deal as summer. However, it's much shorter of a break, so they would announce the names, but it would only be a few. So I would still get the attention that I craved on that Friday. I would get acknowledged. My entire family has their birthdays in September and November. I have a family of 6. 5 birthdays, November, September. Mine is in February. So growing up, that was good and bad because I had the winter months. That was mine. That was my time to shine. Obviously, the fall was rough. Fall is also a rough time to have a birthday because that's when the school year's starting. Everyone's getting into things. People don't really care about your birthday. Because like, if you have a first week of school birthday, like, yeah, sure, whatever. People care to a certain degree, but everyone's getting acclimated. No one's really locked in on your B-day. So best day to have a birthday, probably February 19th, 2001. If I had to pick just a random. At Misty-C1X says, I like applesauce sometimes. And I agree with that. I do also like applesauce sometimes. I don't like it all the time. I do tend to have applesauce in my fridge. That's gonna be pretty much a staple. I think it can last for years. It has very good longevity, and that is why I will actually keep that in my fridge. I think it's pretty much chock full of sugar. I don't think there's really any nutritional. I like foods like that really are just completely empty. Like a lot of like cracker-based snacks, you're just kind of eating bread, but it's processed bread. Processed salty bread, that's my food of choice. Applesauce is good, very simple name. It's a sauce made of apple, right down the middle. You know what you're getting into as soon as you crack that thing open. I would have this, okay, what do you want to know what my lunch was growing up? Well, we open up that lunchbox, what's under the hood? Usually we got a sandwich, we have an applesauce, we have a pudding, which was not my favorite, but it was always a staple. I think it was because I just had too many, so it was oversaturated. I didn't appreciate it as much as I would have had it been a smaller sample size. Potentially a dessert, depending on the occasion. Some sort of drink, maybe a Capri Sun. Who remembers Capri Suns? Those were fantastic. And you also got to stab them to open them, which was the experience of a Capri Sun. I've never seen a drink contained in that format before, where it's sort of just a little pocket, like a hot pocket, but it's got liquid in it. It looks like how you would drink in space, which is very cool. Maybe that's what attracted me to them. So I also like applesauce sometimes. Not all the time though, it's not an everyday food. If you're getting lunch with someone and they say, I'll have applesauce, I'll just do an applesauce. That's weird. I think there should be, in the same way that orange juice has chunkiness levels, or not chunk, pulp levels of pulp, heavy pulp, no pulp, some pulp, only pulp. Applesauce should have the same thing with the level of chunk in the sauce of apple that you can select. Like potentially even like little floating pieces or something of not even ground up apple. It's just apple core in the middle. At Casey174 says, talk about chicken cheese quesadillas. I always forget that quesadillas are an option when I go to Mexican places. There's quite a few Mexican places around here, and they're all fantastic, and I like to eat out at them. And my go-to order is tacos, just because obviously that's the one that we've heard the most. There's this Mexican place near me that has just one of the most extensive menus I've ever seen in my life. It literally covers up an entire wall in their place, and it's just too overwhelming. I can't go through all those options, so I'll pretty much just go with what I know. I'll get a burrito, I'll get a taco. But I've been branching out and trying to explore more. Quesadilla is an example of that. If this gives you any sense of how mature my palate is, I'm saying that a quesadilla would be a bit of an exploration for me taste-wise. But quesadillas are good because it's like a finger food. It's well contained, it's small, it's got cheese. I guess that's the queso part. So is the dia, is that the tortilla part? I need to get better at ordering weird different food that I don't usually eat, because I think you should order for everyone else at your table at a restaurant, because then everyone's trying out new stuff. But then, if someone's got an allergy, you're gonna go, oh, I'm ordering the thing with peanuts for him, because I wanna prank him. I wanna get him with a classic zinger like that. At Bella-P8T1L asks, do you play any video games? If so, what games, and what are your opinions on those games? To just video games in general. So a statement on the state of video games in general, as well as video games. Okay, first of all, yes, I play video games. Some of the fundamental video games that I played, I would say one of the most formative games was Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga on Wii. We would go to that one, that city, where it was like a free play city, tear that thing up. That was, most of my hours were spent, oh my goodness, nothing better than coming home from swimming lessons and hopping on Lego Star Wars. The new ones are interesting, because now they got the Legos talking. They used to, a big part of Lego games was that they would just sort of go like, huh, and it was a lot of facial expressions and just grunting noises. But now they can talk, and it sort of takes away from the... Lego games are funny as well. There's some good comedy in there. Sometimes I'll throw that on and I'll just watch a walkthrough. But a couple of my friends are going, oh, what should we watch? I go, let's just put on Lego Star Wars and let's just watch Lego Star Wars gameplay. And then we'll just sit down and watch that for a couple hours, couple days. I bought a PS5 because I was like, I want to get into more story-based games, such as Red Dead Redemption. I've heard that's a very good, it's almost like a movie in a sense. And I'm interested in that from a story perspective. I think that's cool, interactive media. It's already a bigger industry monetarily than film and TV. It's it makes so much more money. But I'm curious how people will use that as a platform for writers and stuff to if you can make your product into a movie or you can make it into a video game. You have the option to do both, and there's more money in one. I guess it seems like you would want to do the one that it has more money and more funding. So what have I used the PlayStation for? Pretty much exclusively NBA 2K. I got it and I was like, I'm gonna play The Last of Us. I'm gonna play, all these. Immediately just downloaded sports games. That's pretty much all I play. Didn't even make an effort. For some reason, going on a video game, the list of things that are easiest to do in downtime. Go on my phone and go on social media, even though I will be on there for hours. I'll go on with the intention of just watching an individual video, a short form. Yeah, I'll just watch one. I'm not gonna swipe. I have control. And then I'll be on there for hours. But for some reason, I can justify that more so over I'm I don't have time to watch a TV show. I'm not gonna watch a whole TV show. That's what, 50 minutes? I don't have that kind of time. And then I'll just hop on screen time 9 hours. So it goes in level of how easy it is for me to just do them. It'd be phone time, TV, movies. Movies actually over TV, Because TV, I have to pick a show to commit to. Unless I already have a show that I'm watching, then it's a no-brainer. Then the TV jumps the phone stuff. But no, so we're back at, so it goes phone, movies, TV, and a flex package that can go back and forth. Underneath that is video games. Because I feel like to get anything out of playing video games, I have to be playing for like a couple hours. And that's just, who has that kind of time, screen time, 9 hours. State of video games, I think video games are good. I've also heard that video games make you like more, you're like a better problem solver, which is so funny because growing up, like all the messaging around video games is like, it's gonna rot your brain, you're never gonna get anything out of it, it's horrible for you, and then like you look and like the people making the most money on social media are video game streamers, professional video game players, and that sort of thing. The most money is in video games. So I think video games are a good pastime. Also can be social. You can game with your friends. I don't have a headset. Those headsets are awesome because you look like an air traffic controller. They're so massive, and for what reason? I don't know why they gotta be like taking up half your head. Headphones don't even look that big. At Sugarcane Mary Jane asks, Ryan, would you clone yourself if the technology to do so existed? Follow-up question. What would you do with your clone? Like, would you put it to work? Or just hang out? Or have it do stuff for you? Or would you please, I need to know? Well, thank you for saying please. That's very polite of you. And I understand why you need to know. If I could clone myself, I don't think I would. Because I would probably get scared if I woke up and I saw it in the middle of the night. I think it would inhibit my sleep. That's the biggest reason I wouldn't clone myself. It would be good for like doing chores and stuff, divvying up chores. But I feel like also just knowing myself, I would be like, nah, the other Ryan's gonna do it. I'm not doing that. He can do it, he's around. And then it would just be a really horrible division of labor where I think no one, you know, that psychological phenomenon where if something bad has happened and everyone's like, call 911. No one calls 911 because everyone thinks everyone else does it. I think me and my clone, because then my clone would clone itself and be like, well, I need another Ryan to do chores for me. Because it's not fair that Ryan has me cloned. So then there would just be like an infinite amount of clones. And I feel like then it would just be a huge hassle. Also, let's say you get invited to a party. How many Ryans can you only bring yourself? Can you bring a +1 Ryan? Does that other Ryan get an additional +1? Because then it just snowballs. So I would not clone myself for the sake of chores as well as party invitations. At Michael C 1205, here's a question for you to sound off on. What are your thoughts on Fridays being the most overrated day of the week? The only reason people like Friday is because the next day is Saturday. So really people just like Saturday. Friday is still a work day. This is very true. However, completely different attitude towards Friday than the other days in an office setting. First of all, Summer Fridays is this thing in business settings where they'll just they won't have as many hours on, like Friday they'll leave the office at like 3 or something. I understand what you're saying where Friday is next to a day off, but I would agree. I think that's something that you can't devalue from the day. I think that it brings something to that day in being next to Saturday. You know, if you live next to a mansion, you own that mansion a little bit. You own a little bit of that mansion. Even if you live in a tiny little shack and you're next to the mansion, you probably own a little bit of the mansion. I'm not really familiar with how real estate law works. But that being said, I think it's important to be able to treat every day like Friday or Saturday. Because if you're looking forward to the weekends, that's like 70% of your life you're just trying to get through. You got to enjoy every single day. Live every day like Friday. Live every day like Saturday. Don't show up to work any day. And when your boss asks why, you say, because, listen, boss, we only get one life to live. So sure, if I want to take a month off, paid, and go to Peru, I should be allowed to do that, and would you like to come with me as my +1? Of the weekend days, I honestly prefer Friday to Saturday because weekend has not even begun. It's still a Friday. It just there's some spark in the air. Everybody's buzzing because Saturday you're already in the weekend. Friday it's pre-weekend, so it feels like a bonus day. It feels like you got a little sneaky secret, and then you know it's about to be the weekend, but the world doesn't, so you can take advantage of that. Mockingjay_Sav says, so incredibly random, but hear me out. Ryan is Hamish Abernathy in the new Hunger Games movie. I agree with you. I'd like to, Suzanne Collins, please text me. You have my number. I haven't read the new Hunger Games book. I would like to, but as we have touched on in earlier episodes, I've already done this. I've continued to accumulate books and read none. Not even made an effort to start any of them. So I think just diving into another book would be just a real issue in regards to clutter and space. I think maybe I'll just wait till the movie comes out, which I never do. People who, for example, with Harry Potter, if they've just seen the movies, they haven't read the books, don't even talk to me. You got to read the source material because there's some nuggets in there that you don't quite get. It's not the same. It's not the same thing. They're two different mediums. It doesn't all cross over. The book is the source material. We should consume whatever the source material is. So if it's an adaptation of a book to a movie, the book is automatically better because it was the original source. But, for example, let's say they novelized Star Wars. No, the movies are what you watch. And then you read the books because the movie is the source material. Anywho, yeah, probably cast me as that if you're interested. If any of you have a direct line to Suzanne Collins, if she's any of your aunts or maybe your cousin, maybe just shoot her a text, say that I'm available. I'll show you a Google Cal. Just shoot me a Google Cal invite for the duration of filming. At Rinsters says, hello, Mr. Micho, name a movie. I'm thinking. Robots? The movie Robots? Stacked cast. Robin Williams is in that. Other people are in that. We watched it the other day. A lot of visual bits that were very clever. It was very clever. And I only remembered very few parts of that. I watched it in theaters growing up, and I retained very little of that. But upon rewatch, it's gold. Can I name 2 movies? Let's see if I can keep this going. Nope, next question. At SD-RW1RV asks for questions. What would you do in the Hunger Games / best Hunger Games strategies? I would annoy everyone. I would be a nuisance coming off the bat so that people don't want to team up with me because I feel like everyone who teams up, at some point they're going to have to kill each other. So I would want to isolate and I would annoy everyone beforehand. So they're like, I don't want to work with this guy. He keeps on, I would like steal their stuff. I would pull pranks and I would just I would watch reels full volume in public in the training areas. Whenever like the tributes had an option to send me something, instead I would send blackmail to the other people in the arena. I would send nuisances to the other people in the arena with me. For example, I have the option to get either food or send someone else a speaker that won't turn off and plays one song on repeat full volume. I'm going to send them the speaker. And that way, I guess annoying people is a good way to get, for them to kill you. But I think it's much more dangerous for people to want to work with you because then at some point they're going to have to take you out. I would also tell everyone that I had a food allergy before going into the arena, so then they would all try to kill me with, I would like seed something that like it seems like a critical plot point, so that like when you're watching a movie and one of the characters says, oh, I can't have carrots, those would cause me to swell up and die. And you go, and and then they laugh about it because it's just a passing comment. I would make a lot of those. Be like, bread? I can't have bread. That would cause my throat to swell up. But like, no, things that in the arena would be seemingly good to have, such as pretty much all nutritious food, like, cooked meat, really well cooked meat that tastes delicious. I can't have that. I'm allergic to that. And then when I'm in the arena, everyone's annoyed at me. So and they're trying to lure me out because they don't know where I am because I haven't worked with anyone. And they're like, that's right. He said that filet mignon makes him swell up and die. So they would place it out in the middle, and they go, we got him. And then I would go out and I would get my filet mignon, come back, eat, and I'm having a great time. Meanwhile, they're over there having to listen to their speaker that's been playing the same song. I'm winning the Hunger Games. The winner of the Hunger Games, their media deal must have been crazy after that. All the brand deals they would have gotten and that sort of thing. Probably start a podcast. If they didn't start a podcast, that's just really bad brand management. If you win the Hunger Games, the first thing you do is announce a podcast. At Kennedy Henderson 1284 asks, what are your thoughts on the potential comeback of woolly mammoths? Been too long. I mean, I've been wanting a woolly mammoth for the longest time, so that's just I'm hoping it's done in time for Christmas because I was hoping to get my family a woolly mammoth. Transportation would change. You could ride your woolly mammoth to work rather than taking a car, probably better for the environment. And in the case of you're probably not getting road rage because you're riding a woolly mammoth. I don't know if they're an aggressive creature, but they're terrifying. They're very big, so it would intimidate people. It'd be a lot louder outside because you would hear them stomping when they walk. So there'd be just more noise, which is good if people like noise. I'm not a music fan, I just like noise. I don't know where that, what sort of climate are they native to? I hope they wouldn't just have them like in LA. Like people who have huskies in warm environments. I can't imagine a woolly mammoth would do well in LA. Professionally, I'm sure it would do fine. No, they're very talented. I'm not saying in that regard. I'm saying in the sense that they would probably be sweating way too much due to their an ice creature. A woolly mammoth is a good example of an animal that if it was extinct, it would not be nearly as interesting. Like elephants are kind of just a woolly mammoth. They're a naked woolly mammoth. And it's like, that's not really a big deal. No one really cares that, like, sure, elephants are interesting, but if you were told that elephants used to exist, you'd be like, they what? They have a trunk? What is a trunk? But just the fact that woolly mammoths are extinct makes them more interesting inherently. So what I'm saying, the best thing you can do for your species brand-wise is go extinct. It's going to raise your value, scarcity, right? Supply, that's just classic supply and demand principles. Any business school will teach you. So everyone's like, oh, humans are gonna go extinct. That's fine. We're gonna, I mean, the value through the roof. Like dodo birds, they're extinct. I don't even think they're that interesting. It's just a bird. Like again, the only interesting part is the name. But like, if they weren't extinct, it was well, whatever, just a dodo bird, who cares? I think chameleons, seahorses, those are weird. Like if that was extinct, we'd be like, what was that? Oh, this segues pretty well. At WJXWCC says, tell us about your favorite animal, profile pictures of a dog. So the dog clearly commented this. So this is clearly a comment from the dog. Are you a dog or cat person? Okay, you're fishing. You want me to say dog because you're a dog? Okay, sure. Lion or tiger, T-Rex or pterodactyl? I'm gonna take this as a three-parter. Dog or cat? I like dogs better. Cats scare me a little bit. Lion or tiger? I do not understand the difference between the two. Lion is the one with the mane, has better hair. So I'm gonna take the lion. Just from a style perspective, you can do more with it. Tiger kind of is what it is, which isn't bad, but it's just more limited in that regard. Buzz cut, that'd be interesting to buzz a lion thing. T-Rex or pterodactyl? Pterodactyl. I would definitely prefer to have a pet pterodactyl. It's essentially, it could be a massive messenger bird in the same way that a pigeon is. Like a pigeon would carry letters. Was that a real thing? Were messenger pigeons real? Because how would you tell it where to go? That doesn't make, it's a bird. Anyways, messenger pterodactyl, because like a pigeon can only carry so much. A pterodactyl could probably carry a car. So like if you want to drop your car, you want to park your car, you drive somewhere, and you got to send your car, you just have your pterodactyl come, bring it home. Pterodactyl is an example of an animal that's, you can absolutely believe was extinct. Because that'd be terrifying if that existed. Woolly mammoth versus pterodactyl, which would I rather bring back? Woolly mammoth, because the pterodactyl is gonna, I feel like they'd be running the world. It'd be really annoying if every once in a while your friend got picked up and carried off by a pterodactyl and you never saw him again. I'm glad that we are at the top of the food chain, because it would be very annoying if we were not. Like that would just be such a nuisance added to your life if you not only had to worry about everything else in your life, but also on top, like, oh, gotta go to the grocery store, I gotta keep up the net above my house so pterodactyls don't come and swoop me up like a small dog. And MFOSSE, hello Mr. Micho, could you maybe give your honest opinion on French people in the next episode? This is something that would be important for you to weigh in on, I think. For all of the shortcomings of French people in their how they are portrayed within media, people love to say that French people are evil. I went to Paris when I was abroad. They were so nice. I was traveling with like a group of like 8 guys, 8 college guys, which I feel like is a group that if I saw them, I would be like, okay, they seem like they're annoying. But like everywhere we went, they were so gracious to, I don't know why, like they were I expected them to be jerks to us. And I think it would have been justified. We seemed very annoying. So I don't know if it was just sort of our boyish charm. But I think French people, probably overhated, I would argue. But that's not a hot take because they're already like, it's an insult to say that someone seems like they're acting like a French person. Like it's already insulting. They have so much climbing to do, so to say that they're overhated I don't think is a hot take. Paris is so cool, by the way. The Eiffel Tower is really big. That was my big takeaway. I know that's an oversimplification, but it's really big. Like Of the tourist things that I saw when I was abroad, the Eiffel Tower was like, just from a sheer size perspective, it was like, okay, that's cool. That's cool to see. And I think maybe that's a very American perspective to be like, I liked it because it was big. But it's true, I did. That was the reason that I liked it. How big is it? Man, it's about 90 Toyota Corolla. What was it? 90 Toyota Corollas, I think, long, height-wise. But these are from Spotify. At Harper Jane asks, what are other things besides babies are perfectly shaped and waited for throwing? The profile picture is of a baby. So I'm thinking this is a baby that got insulted and would like to know alternatives. Car keys. Car keys are a good throw, which you wouldn't think because they probably got other stuff coming off of them, but it's good noise-wise and weight-wise. They have a good density to them, although small. A picture frame is good, sort of like a discus. Or a plate, obviously. A plate is obviously good for throwing. Kind of only get one throw out of that. That's not really a multi-throw sort of thing. Those dogs that can go in a purse, that's probably a good throw, similar to a baby, dimension-wise. Mario asks, what book genre is most overrated, underrated? I would say the dictionary right now, the physical copy of the dictionary, definitely overrated in regards in thesaurus, in regards to usability. We were gifted one in elementary school because they were like, this is the only dictionary you're going to need your whole life. Guess what? I don't need one ever. I don't need one in my entire life because you know why? I got it on my phone. I got it in my pocket. Santa's job is mostly clerical. The majority of the year, sure, he has his big day, as we all know, Christmas. That's when he sort of shines. He travels the entire globe. He gives out his gifts. Sure. That's one day. There are 365 days in a year. 364 days out of the year, he has essentially an office job. We build him up to be this sort of high and mighty figure because of what he does for one day of the year. If we were evaluating people based on their performance one day of the year, I feel like you wouldn't hold them in as high of a regard. If NBA players played one game in a year, they're not getting a signature shoe. However, if you play the majority of the year, you're a professional basketball player, then you're earning a little bit, you're earning your stripes. Santa, I feel, maybe his job is not as desirable as it seems. And in this video, we will explore whether Santa is a good person, whether what he does is moral, and whether his job is desirable. So it begs the question, what is Santa doing in the off season? What is the majority of his time? Well, what do we know about Santa? So on Christmas, he delivers his gifts. The rest of the year, he's making his list, he's checking it twice. So the majority of the year, he's just accumulating a list. He's writing names in a spreadsheet. Is that so romantic? I don't think so. That's not the Santa I know. That's not the Santa the media has fed me. Also, he's making a list. Sure, I follow. And then he's checking it twice. So those are his two main tasks. If you're checking the list twice, and making the list takes a certain amount of time, one would think that it would take the same amount of time to check the list as it did to make the list. And let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it takes him 4 months to check the list versus 8 months to make the list. So those last 4 months of the year, he's not adding to the list. He's only in the checking phase at this point. In that case, you would potentially be morally exempt from you could do heinous acts and still receive your Christmas presents because Santa is not accounting for that. Santa is more worried about double checking his work because why? Because he doesn't want to be wrong. He doesn't want to catch flack for maybe a typo. But then you're losing an entire, and that's when I do all my bad stuff, is in the last half of the year, and Santa doesn't know, and I can get away with that because Santa is not watching. He knows if you're naughty or nice. What does naughty or nice mean? That is incredibly subjective. It's not black and white. It's not an objective truth that someone is a bad person or a good person based on one thing that you do. What if, okay, Santa, this is a more complex problem. What if someone does 45 great things and one really bad thing? How do you balance those? Is it just one bad act eliminates you from the nice list? Or is it multiple bad acts that does it have to be 45 to 45, 46 to 45, whichever one takes the majority, good or bad, that is the one that he will put you on that list. Why is it such a cut and dry thing? That makes me think that Santa is playing favorites. I would not be surprised if you can buy your way onto the nice list. In philosophy and ethics, when you think about any of the trolley problems, are any of those people good or bad for what they've done? I don't know. I think it's more of a moral gray area, and I don't think you can necessarily say that is good and there is evil. It's not that simple, Santa. It's not that down the middle. I think it's an oversimplification on Santa's end. He doesn't want to put in that critical thinking because he's been riding on these coattails for so long of, oh, I'm Santa Claus, it's naughty or nice. It is my law that I say what is good or bad. He doesn't need to worry about this sort of thing because the media isn't attacking him for this. They're just taking at face value whatever he said because he's too powerful. That is the truth that it comes down to, he is simply too powerful. So going back to, is Santa's job desirable? I mean, sure, I can knock him all I want, but is it a job that I want? I don't think so. He's been doing the same thing forever. He started as Santa Claus. He is still Santa Claus. Not much has changed, not much innovation. So do you knock the organization or do you knock the individual? In this case, I think you knock the individual because Santa is the one in charge of everything. He is the ringleader. Right? So he is saying he could have made changes. All he does is Christmas. Why are we not doing multiple Christmases? Why can you not expand? If you're having success, you should be able to expand. There should be not a December Christmas, but maybe a June Christmas, maybe a May Christmas, right? If we're having all that success, which is purely monetary success, because it is it's a monetary based holiday. It's all about money. He's making product. That's all he's doing is he's creating for us to consume. And if he's having this success, and you cannot argue that Christmas has been successful, Santa should be, I mean, there should, at the very least, you should do 2 Christmases. And now to reference a couple of texts of Santa that we've seen, we take an example, Santa Claus, the movie Santa Claus, right, with Tim Allen. We think about those elves, the scene where he lands in the hangar. He thinks it's kids. Turns out it's elves that he's speaking to. So you're hundreds of years old, yet you're still working at a seemingly entry-level position. There's no upward mobility within the North Pole. You enter as an elf. I don't even think you enter. I think you're just there as an elf. Elves don't have much say. That's a bad company culture. There needs to be upward mobility. You should not be several hundred years old still working the same elf job. You're working at a grocery store. You've been there for 100 years, and you've never gotten one promotion, not one single raise. Is that a bad company culture? I think if you polled most Americans, they would say yes. They would say yes, that is a bad company culture to work at a job for 100 years, never get a raise, never get a promotion. And so Santa has access to all these employees who are seemingly just blindly working for him, doing whatever he says, smashing hits, smashing success every year. He's having no trouble. Not expanding, just sort of resting on his laurels. Why is he not using this army of elves to innovate in medical technology? Why is he not curing diseases? Why is he building gaming consoles? Why is he not helping correct infrastructure, build public transportation? These are things that he could be using his workforce for, but he chooses not to. Why does he choose not to? I think it comes from a selfish agenda. But can we knock Santa for all of this? I don't know. I mean, you're running this company. That's tremendous pressure. Santa is the only named person at the... Think of who in the North Pole you could hold accountable. Think of one other name than Santa Claus. You can't. Santa is the one that you think of. You go, oh, I have an issue with what I got for Christmas this year. I'd like to complain to someone. Who do you talk? You can only talk to Santa. And that you do have to sort of respect from an outside perspective that Santa is taking, sure, he's taking all the credit, but he's taking the criticism. And that, as much success as you can have when there are people who are depending on you in that regard, to that severity, there's going to be a level of pressure that builds on you. Although he's Santa Claus, he is human, I think. We don't know. As seen in The White Lotus Season 3 with Timothy Ratliff, all that pressure, sure, he's been very successful, but clearly his family they don't have an appreciation for that. He provides for them, yet they don't thank him. And this same situation could be going on with Santa. I mean, that's got to weigh on your conscience, knowing Santa can't leave. Santa can't, oh, I'm thinking about a career change. I'd like to go actually work in, I would like to work in finance. You can't, Santa, because you have all these people depending on you. The year without a Santa Claus. What happened? It was a nightmare. They were barely staying afloat, and that was 1 year. 3 years without Santa, we might not even, the North Pole as an establishment might crumble. But this is responsibility that you could argue he's put on himself. So where do we lie with empathy that we feel? Do we feel bad for him, or do we say this is something that he's brought on himself? You could argue Santa is creating jobs for the elves in the North Pole. Can the elves leave? Is it a job if you can't leave the place in which you're employed? If I give you $1 million Ryan dollars to work a job, and the Ryan dollars can only buy things within, these certain premises, is that an income, or have I trapped you? Just trying to think of one elf that's made the transition from North Pole to mainstream society. I can't think of a single North Pole elf that transitioned, besides obviously Buddy the elf, but as we know, he was a human, he was not an elf. Different situation. Have you ever heard about an elf retiring? No. Nothing about, in all the Christmas movies, not a single retired elf. What does that tell you? That they work until death. But at the end of the day, these elves seem happy, and he's providing for these elves, and he's paying, but he's contributing massively to overconsumption. I mean, he's producing, billions of toys that are released all at once from the North Pole to just mainland continents? Waste that wasn't there before is just going to all of the, oh no, it's helping the economy. No, it's not. It's going right back to that Santa economy. That sick Is he even creating jobs? Do elves need jobs? They're elves. They're allegedly these mythical creatures. I can't imagine they were making toys forever. I don't know why they got into this consortium with Santa. So now let's answer the questions at the top of this exercise. Santa's job is mostly clerical, yes. Most of his job is office work. And is that enviable? That in itself, I would argue, not enviable. 364 days, no break, not, and what is the job? It's essentially just probably going through a spreadsheet. Just going through a spreadsheet, reading names, and then doing it twice. You have to do it once, you have to do it twice. You go, oh, you start to feel a little bit bad for Santa, right? Not a desirable job. But then you start to think, we hear all about what Santa's doing, but who's doing the real work? The elves. And who does the money go back to? The elves, but really Santa. Because he's running the economy. It's his economy. He distributes the wealth. It's all flowing back up to Santa. This is a money laundering scheme. This is a pyramid scheme. It all goes back up to Santa Claus. Is he good at his job? Yes. Is he a good person? I don't know. I don't know if Santa's going to make the nice list, to be honest. Yeah, he's a good person. He's Santa Claus. Come on now, guys. Come on now. It's Santa. No, of course, Santa's a good guy. He got me an Xbox 1 year, so he's a good guy. I can vouch for him. Would I live there? Kansas City, Missouri. 38th most populated city in America. Not even out of the 50 states. There are 50 states, as we all know. That's not even top tier. That's not top 25. There's probably no one there. What is that, like 15 people? Boring. Boring. Bad start. I want my city, I want it to be packed. I want LA traffic mixed with New York street congestion. That's my ideal city. I want to not be able to walk anywhere. And guess what? Kansas City, you can walk anywhere. There's very little traffic from what I've read. People go, oh, no traffic. That sounds great. Does it sound great? When you're in traffic, that's a great time to call people, to read an audiobook, listen to a podcast. You can't do that in Kansas City because boom, you're there. You're already at your destination. No. If I'm going a mile, I want it to take an hour. So that's a knock on Kansas City, is that they have fantastic public transportation, and the way that they organize their traffic is really well done. So Kansas is, I looked at it on a map. This is the first time I've ever looked at it on a map. It's on the border of Kansas and Missouri, which makes a lot more sense to me because obviously I hear that it's in Missouri. Why is that the side that they picked to center the city on? Do you not understand the confusion that may have caused? That's like New York City being in New Jersey. It's like, what are we doing? It's a very easy fix. You're on the border, just shift the center of the city to Kansas. But I think that would be a big deal for me because I'd be going to the wrong state all the time. All the time. There's probably got a different time zone over there. Kansas time versus Missouri time. I'd be late to everything. I spelled it with 2 Z's because the college team spells it as M-I-Z-Z-O-U, and then the teacher gave me the chance to correct it, and I spelled it M-I-Z-Z-O-U again, even though I spelled it that way the first time. She gave me the chance to correct it, and I spelled it the same way. Missouri makes a Z noise. Why? It should be Missouri. Missouri. Try that on for size. Missouri. Kansas City. Kansas City is converting a lot of their downtown buildings from what were previously office buildings to now residential buildings. So you're telling me that I don't have a place to work anymore? What am I supposed to, is my office a house now in the suburbs? Okay, Kansas City. I don't know if you thought that one through, Kansas City. So that what you're telling me is that they got a million of those housing, those new high-rise apartments with names that all start with the Grove, the Pancake Factory. I would, once again, get so confused. If I went downtown to go into my office, and there's a family of 4 living in there, I'm joining the family of 4. No, I like those residential buildings because they all look identical and they all have like the same amenities. I'd like to buy a full one of those buildings. Cold winters. It seems like this place has all the extremes weather-wise, which is not a pro. That's not a pro for me. People want to experience all the seasons. Why? Just summer is the best one. Why would you want? That's like being like, I'd like to experience all of the possible injuries just to know what it feels like. Because then you know when you're healthy, it feels so much better. No, I just like to be healthy all the time. I don't want a tornado in the winter to remind me how good the summer is. I can just be grateful during the summer. So Kansas City, apparently they have cold winters, but they have hot, humid summers. I like a humid summer. I don't like dry heat. I like my wet heat. I like my sopping wet heat. I like to be drenched on the sidewalk. I like to just be walking down the sidewalk and just sopping wet. Just slither like a snail down the sidewalk. That's my ideal summer and winter. I don't think I could do the snow though. That's gonna be tricky for me. They do have good barbecue. And I know this because Kansas City barbecue is a barbecue flavor for a lot of, like the actual bottles of barbecue will be Kansas City barbecue. Not sure what's so peculiar about Kansas City doesn't scream barbecue to me, just based on location. I thought it'd be more of a cornbread, I feel like corn heavy diet. That's what I would have guessed just because of Kansas and Missouri. They're the middle of America to me. I really know nothing about, I know they're flat. Flat, so good for running. Good place to run. If you're into running, good for long cinematic shots of driving away into the sunset. It is landlocked. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's not really much, not a real destination city. Not really a tourism, I imagine, doesn't carry too much of the brunt there, of the burden. They should put there should be a Universal or Disney there. Yeah, like Disney Paris, Disney Florida, Disney Kansas City. Because it could be massive. They could fill most of this. I assume most of Kansas is empty. I don't know what's there. Can't imagine much. And a lot of green space, which is good. I like my green space. I like my green space because you can spread out. When you're in a city like New York, you look up, it feels like you're in the Death Star. You can't see the sky. I want to be able to see the sky, and you can see the sky in Kansas City. Final verdict, would I live there? Yeah. Yeah, I'd live there, sure. Why not? And now I will rank Kansas City on a scale out of 45,300. So it's like out of 10, but instead of out of 10, it's out of 45,300. Pros and cons. Some cons include no traffic. So once again, we don't have our podcast time. We don't have our audiobook and podcast time, but it does have space for a massive amusement park due to it's a relatively empty area. That bumps it up. It's coming back down because of the weather. The weather's too volatile for me. And then it's going back down once again due to it's not jam-packed with people and I'd be able to breathe and I wouldn't, walking down the street, I wouldn't get elbowed and yelled at by people because it's not overpopulated. But it does have good barbecue, so it's going back up for that because it has that Kansas City barbecue name. It holds some weight. Out of 45,300, I'm going to put it at 27,900. It's real middle of the pack. Would I live there? Yeah, I would live there. Okay, well that was just about episode 9. Lovely, lovely time spending time with you. Have a fantastic week. Make sure to remember to make 1,000 friends this week, 1,000 new friends. Some good opening lines for making friends are, hey, you drop this, and then it's your heart. You're showing them it's your heart. What are some other good opening lines? Hey, get over here. Get over here. You can just say, get over here, buddy, a bunch of times until they come over, and then you say, I'd like to be your friend. That's another good opener. Bye.